The notion of separate finances seemed perfectly sensible and forward-thinking to the husband. He had no inkling of the domestic upheaval it would soon trigger. When his mother arrived for a visit and flung open the refrigerator door, her indignation knew no bounds. "Son, why is the fridge empty? Where's the food?" She flitted around the kitchen in utter bewilderment, while her beloved son looked at his wife with confusion. "Darling," he asked, "why didn't you prepare anything for Mom's arrival?" Hello, dear listeners. I'm delighted to welcome you to my channel. I present to you a new and engaging story. Enjoy listening. Larisa Mikhailovna detested long train journeys, yet this was precisely how she had to travel to her son's place. She didn't own a car, and a taxi to their suburban Moscow home would cost a small fortune. She was already anticipating crossing the threshold, shedding her uncomfortable boots that had rubbed her heels raw, and settling at the table where Katya, her daughter-in-law, had undoubtedly already laid out plates laden with homemade pies, salads, and a hot meal. Katya always welcomed her mother-in-law with great fanfare, cooking as if expecting not just one person, but an entire delegation. Pavel opened the door. Her only son embraced her and kissed her on the cheek. Larisa Mikhailovna entered the hallway, removed her jacket, and surveyed the surroundings. The apartment was clean, smelled fresh, but not of food. Strange usually, one could detect the scent of fried onions, baked goods, or stewed meat right from the doorway. "Where is Katya?" she inquired, heading towards the kitchen. "Katya's in the other room. She'll be out soon," Pavel replied rather uncertainly. Larisa Mikhailovna pushed open the kitchen door and froze. On the table sat an empty fruit bowl. The stove was pristine. She approached the refrigerator, pulled open the door, and gasped. Inside, she found only a bottle of ketchup, a pack of butter, and a solitary cucumber that was clearly on its last legs. "Son, why's the fridge empty? Where's the food?" Her voice rang with indignation. Pavel stood in the doorway, scratched the back of his head, and looked away. "Well, Mom, you see, Katya and I decided to switch to separate budgets." Larisa Mikhailovna's eyes widened. "Separate budgets? Whatever for?" "Well, it's modern, isn't it? I spend my money on myself, and she spends hers on herself. Nobody owes anyone anything. It's all fair and square." The mother-in-law felt her blood begin to boil. She darted around the kitchen, opening cupboards, peering into pots. Everything was empty. No grains, no pasta, no bread, as if no one lived in this apartment at all. "Are you serious?" She turned to her son. "You've been married for 8 years. You have a child. What separate budgets are you talking about?" "Mom, it's my decision." Katya agreed. Pavel was starting to get annoyed. At that moment, Katya emerged from the other room. She wore comfortable home trousers and a stretched-out t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her face was expressionless, a picture of calm, bordering on indifference. "Hello, Larisa Mikhailovna," she said in an even tone. "Katya, my dear." The mother-in-law rushed towards her. "What's happened? Why is there no food in the house?" "I arrived hungry," she thought, "expecting you to have prepared things as usual." "Darling," Pavel interrupted, looking at his wife with a hint of reproach. "Why didn't you prepare anything for Mom's arrival?" And then Katya looked at him in such a way that even Larisa Mikhailovna involuntarily stepped back. "Because my budget is allocated for myself and for Lyova," she replied quietly but very clearly. "I buy groceries for 2. My son and I have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You yourself said that from now on everyone is on their own. So I'm looking out for myself and for the child, who, by the way, is also mine." Pavel opened his mouth, but no words came out. "What do you mean, for 2? He mumbled. "Exactly. You wanted separate budgets, right? Here you go. I spend my salary on groceries for myself and Lyova, on his clothes, on his classes, on doctors, on everything else. Your salary is yours, mine is mine. It's fair, isn't it?" Larisa Mikhailovna slowly sank into a chair. She suddenly realized that something serious had occurred here, but hadn't yet grasped the full extent of the disaster. "Wait!" Pavel ran a hand nervously over his face. "I didn't say I wouldn't eat at home at all." "But you did," Katya countered. You said separate budgets. I took it literally. If you want to eat my food, let's discuss how much you're willing to contribute to the communal pot. I've calculated that for 3 people, it comes to approximately 35,000 per month, give or take. If you want to eat with us, chip in. Half 17,000 and some change. Pavel turned pale. Are you out of your mind? This is my apartment. The mortgage has another 10 years to go, of which I'm paying exactly half. Katya crossed her arms over her chest. So, no. The apartment is communal and we pay equally, but I buy the food myself because you decided we now have separate budgets. Katyusha, my dear, Larisa Mikhailovna intervened, trying to smooth over the rough edges. What is this really about? Men have always been the providers, but that doesn't mean… Larisa Mikhailovna, Katya interrupted, a steely tone entering her voice. Your son decided to play at emancipation. I'm just going along with it. He earns 80,000, I earn 50. Before, we pulled everything into a common budget and I managed the household, bought groceries, cooked, did laundry, cleaned, and took care of Lyova while he sat playing his games in the evenings. Then he announced he wanted separate budgets. I agreed. Now, I spend my money only on myself and on my son. And you know what? I'm even managing to save money. Pavel stood there, red as a beet. That's not what I meant. And what did you mean? Katya asked in an icy tone. That I would continue to handle all the domestic chores and you would save up for a new computer? A heavy, oppressive silence descended. Larisa Mikhailovna looked at her son, then at her daughter-in-law, and a picture began to form in her mind. She suddenly saw everything differently. Katya had always been a good wife, thrifty and caring. And Pavel, it seemed, had decided he could get away with it and come out on top. But Mom is visiting, Pavel tried to appeal to her sympathy. Then feed your mom, Katya shrugged. I didn't invite you. I didn't even know Larisa Mikhailovna was coming. You didn't tell me. How could you not invite her? She's my mother. Your mother, your responsibility, your money. Separate budgets, remember? Larisa Mikhailovna felt the ground disappear from beneath her feet. She had always considered Katya compliant and easygoing, but here was this young woman showing some backbone, and what was most galling, she was absolutely right. Fine, I'll go to the store now, Pavel grumbled and reached for his jacket. The nearest one closes at 10, Katya called after him. You'll make it if you run. Pavel slammed the door. Larisa Mikhailovna remained seated in the kitchen, feeling useless and out of place. Katya poured herself some tea and took out cookies from the cupboard. They were hidden behind the grains in the furthest corner. Would you like some? She offered her mother-in-law. Thank you, she mumbled and took a cookie. They drank tea in silence. Somewhere in the other room, the sound of children's laughter could be heard. Lyova was watching cartoons. A normal child, cheerful. Larisa Mikhailovna suddenly realized that she didn't even know what her grandson was interested in, what he liked, or what his dreams were. She always came to visit her son and perceived Lyova as an appendage to her visit. I'm sorry, she said, unexpectedly for herself. Katya looked up. For what? I always thought that you were supposed to do things by default because you're the wife. Katya smiled slightly, but without malice. Everyone thinks that. Even Pavel. He sincerely believed he could declare separate budgets, and I would continue to feed him, wash his socks, and iron his shirts, because that's how it's supposed to be. And you decided to teach him a lesson? I decided to live honestly, Katya corrected. If it's separate budgets, then it's truly separate. I won't pretend everything is fine while I'm being taken advantage of. Larisa Mikhailovna nodded. She felt a sense of respect for this young woman, a feeling she had never experienced before. Katya didn't throw tantrums, didn't cry, didn't threaten divorce. She simply took action and did everything according to the rules her husband had invented. Pavel returned an hour later, carrying bags of dumplings, sausages, and bread. His face was sour. Larisa Mikhailovna understood that her son had spent a considerable amount of money, and he didn't like it. He silently boiled the dumplings, and the 3 of them ate. Katya only left her room to get Lyova and feed him separately with her own pre-prepared food. Larisa Mikhailovna watched this and felt guilty, although she didn't quite understand why. That night, she lay on the sofa in the living room and heard them arguing in the bedroom. Pavel hissed something. Katya responded calmly, almost emotionlessly. Larisa Mikhailovna understood that interfering would be useless. This was their battle, their rules, their life. The next morning, she left without witnessing any reconciliation. Pavel saw her off to the train station, sullen and silent. Katya didn't emerge from her room at all. In the following weeks, Larisa Mikhailovna called her son regularly. At first, he answered curtly and irritably, then he started complaining. It turned out that Katya had kept her word resolutely. She bought groceries only for herself and Lyova. She cooked only for the two of them. Pavel tried to steal food from the refrigerator, but Katya had created a separate shelf and put a lock on it. A genuine combination lock on the refrigerator shelf. "Mom, she's gone completely wild," Pavel whined into the phone. "Yesterday, I ate a cutlet she had prepared for Lyova's dinner, so she sent me a bill. She said the cutlet cost 120 rubles, accounting for ingredients and her labor." Larisa Mikhailovna remained silent. She didn't know what to say. On one hand, she felt sorry for her son, but on the other, he had started it himself. "Pashka, maybe that's enough," she suggested cautiously. "Tell her you were wrong, that you want to go back to how things were." "I told her," Pavel howled. "She replies that separate budgets are a wonderful idea and she's very happy with this arrangement. And you know what the worst part is? She genuinely is happy. She's become somehow happier, it seems. She walks around, smiles, plays with Lyova, and she doesn't even offer me tea." "Can't you make your own tea?" "I can, but before, didn't she—" "Did you pay her for it?" Larisa Mikhailovna asked sternly. Pavel fell silent. A month later, Katya herself called her mother-in-law. Her voice was calm, even warm. "Larisa Mikhailovna, I wanted to apologize for that reception. I felt awkward that you went hungry." "Katyusha, you're not to blame for anything," she replied honestly. "It's my son who acted foolishly. I wanted to tell you that Pavel and I have discussed everything. He's agreed to return to a joint budget. But now we have an expense spreadsheet, and we both know where the money is going." Pavel saw how much I spend on household needs, on the child, on the house. He was shocked. "And what did he say?" "He said he hadn't realized how expensive it is to support a family," Katya chuckled. "And I told him it's not expensive. It's normal. He just never calculated it before because I did it." Larisa Mikhailovna felt pride for her daughter-in-law and shame for having once considered her obligated to do everything simply because she was a wife. "Come visit us next weekend," Katya suggested. "I'll bake an apple pie, just the way you like it." "Thank you, my dear, I'll come." And Larisa Mikhailovna came. The table was lavishly set. Katya radiated happiness. Lyova ran around laughing. Pavel was quiet, withdrawn, but no longer angry. He helped his wife set the table, brought plates, and wiped up spilled juice left by his son. At the table, Larisa Mikhailovna raised her glass to understanding the value of care and to thanking those who make our lives comfortable. Katya smiled. Pavel nodded. Lyova shouted, "For Mom!" and everyone laughed. After dinner, as Katya was putting Lyova to bed, Pavel stayed with his mother in the kitchen, washing the dishes meticulously and diligently. "You know, Mom, I was a complete idiot," he said, not looking up from the plate. "You were," Larisa Mikhailovna agreed. "I truly thought separate budgets were cool and modern, that we would both be free." "It turned out you just wanted to save money on the family and keep it for yourself." "It turned out," she nodded, "during the first month of these separate budgets, Katya saved 15,000. Pavel continued. 15,000. Because before, she spent it on little things for the house, on more expensive groceries, on treats, but then she simply stopped doing that, and a lot of money was freed up immediately." "And you were left without dinner?" Larisa Mikhailovna chuckled. "I was left without anything," Pavel admitted. "I didn't even know she did so much. Apparently shirts don't iron themselves, food doesn't cook itself, and the apartment doesn't clean itself. Katya did all of that every day, and I thought it was supposed to be that way." "Many people think that," said Larisa Mikhailovna. "And I thought so too. until your father left and I was left alone. That's when I realized how much he did, even though I thought I was the only one carrying the entire household." Pavel dried his hands and sat opposite his mother. "You know what's most frightening? A friend at work recommended this separate budget system. He lives that way with his wife, and it seemed fair to me. Everyone for themselves. But I didn't think Katya would take it so literally. I thought she would continue to do everything as usual, and I would just be freer to spend my money." "So you wanted to get all the benefits without any of the drawbacks?" Larisa Mikhailovna summarized. "Yes," Pavel sighed. "I was selfish. Katya showed me very clearly." Katya appeared in the doorway. She was in her pajamas, her hair loose. "Lyova is asleep," she announced. "Larisa Mikhailovna, I've prepared the guest room in the living room for you. If you need anything, please let me know." "Thank you, my dear." Larisa Mikhailovna stood up and hugged her daughter-in-law. "Thank you for not letting my son become completely insolent." Katya laughed. "I stood up for myself. It just so happened that it benefited everyone." That night, Larisa Mikhailovna lay in the darkness and thought about how for many years she herself had lived in an illusion. She believed that a wife owed her husband everything by default: cooking, laundry, bearing children, raising them, working, and still being grateful for being married at all. But that's not true. A family is an equal, fair partnership. If someone contributes more, they should be appreciated, not taken for granted. 2 years later, Larisa Mikhailovna visited her son again, but this time she was greeted by a different home. Pavel was cooking dinner himself, while Katya was at work. He had learned to bake and was proud of it. Lyova had grown and started first grade. Katya had opened a small online business selling children's clothing and was now earning more than her husband. But this was no longer a problem. They contributed equally, managed a joint budget, and planned expenses together. "Mom, sit down. I made a roast," Pavel said with a smile, taking a baking sheet out of the oven. Larisa Mikhailovna looked at her son and rejoiced. That scandal with the separate budgets had turned out to be the best thing that could have happened to their family. It had forced Pavel to mature, Katya to defend her boundaries, and all of them to learn to respect each other. At the table, they talked about plans, about the future, about a new car they wanted to buy on credit. Katya showed her mother-in-law photos of the new clothing collection. Lyova talked about school. "Do you remember the day you arrived and the refrigerator was empty?" Pavel suddenly asked. "How could I forget?" Larisa Mikhailovna chuckled. "That was the scariest day of my life," he confessed. "I realized I could lose my family due to my own stupidity." "You didn't lose it," Katya said gently. "You finally found it." Larisa Mikhailovna looked at them, a lump forming in her throat. She was happy. Happy for them, for her grandson, for the fact that everything had turned out this way. Sometimes you need to fall to learn to walk. Sometimes you need to go hungry to understand who fed you your whole life. In the evening, on the train home, Larisa Mikhailovna looked out the window at the passing lights and smiled. Life is a strange thing. Sometimes the most unpleasant situations lead to the most correct decisions, and an empty refrigerator can be the beginning of a truly honest family.